Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about mastering the basics of EYFS. We will discuss a quick overview of the EYFS. We'll talk about what the EYFS framework is. We'll be looking at some videos to see how some teachers are applying some of the key principles of the EYFS in classrooms with children. We'll reflect on those together. And then after going through this presentation, I'll explain to you what you do next in order to implement an EYFS-based activity, and then complete the quiz in order to obtain your certificate. So in the first section, we'll look at what are the key principles and why is the EYFS so important. The early years foundation stage, or the EYFS, is a framework, is a guide for learning and development and care for children that are aged birth to age 5 in the UK. It sets the standards for learning, and it makes sure that you're doing everything that you can to make sure that children are safe and well taken care of. The purpose of the EYFS is simply to give you kind of a structure that helps you make sure that you're covering all of the areas of development. You're ensuring that they receive high quality early education. And although the EYFS wasn't specifically designed for children who have special needs, it is a curriculum approach or a curriculum framework that is very inclusive, and it's very supportive of children's needs and varying needs. There are 4 key principles of the EYFS, and later in today's presentation, we're going to be looking at some of them, and I'm going to be showing you through videos how actually these principles translate into practical application inside the classroom. But generally, the EYFS, the key principles or the deep values of the EYFS is that they believe that every child is a unique child. There's a prioritization for creating positive relationships. You are creating an enabling environment, and then you're focusing on learning and development. But before we move forward, I want to pause here for a moment, because why are these values or these principles so important? I'm going to take you out of the childcare setting. Just imagine that you're in search of a new friend or considering a new boss to work for. So many individuals could possibly captivate you. They may have this incredible charisma, success. They may have this fun-loving nature. But however, as time unfolds, you realize that these surface qualities aren't what profoundly affect your life. Rather, it's those deep underlying values that really truly matter. So this concept exactly mirrors what we mean by the EYFS values. So beyond selecting the curriculum that you choose, beyond the facility, the beautiful design of the entrance, your beautiful decorations of the classrooms, even the teaching methods, the core values of the curriculum that you choose, your decision to make it a fostering, nurturing environment, encouraging individuality, uniqueness of the children, genuinely shaping experiences so that you value the relationship over everything else, creating an enabling environment. These values are not only going to guide their academic growth, but also their evolution into empathetic, well-rounded individuals. And the reason why I would like to pause on this is because whether you realize it or not, your values are seeping through your activities. Often, we concentrate on the what and we neglect to consider what we truly believe as professionals, as educators. So next time when you're encountering these values, or if you're posting them on your website or in your brochures, don't just flip through the page saying, yeah, 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 I know this. Stop and pause. Don't rush through recognizing and embracing these values and how significantly they will impact what you do with young learners. And we'll look at each one a little bit later. But why is the EYFS so popular globally? You know, we're coming here together. We're from all over the world. Even though this EYFS framework was originally created for the UAE, for the UK, the reason why it's so popular is one, because it's child-centered, two, because it's so holistic, it covers all the areas of development. And the third one is because it's more adaptable to different kinds of education settings. Now, if we compare it to different approaches like the Reggio Emilia approach, the Montessori approach, all of these approaches are absolutely wonderful. They are excellent in comparison. But if I compare those, it is a little bit more difficult because you need certain environmental setups, you need certain resources, you need tools, you need specific things to be able to implement other approaches, which is absolutely fine. But as a way of comparison, the EYFS is a little bit more easier to adapt to different kinds of education settings. So what does the word, if you're looking or researching about the EYFS, you'll see this word statutory framework. What that means is it's because it's a set of legal requirements that actually have to be followed in the UK. So all early years providers in the UK are legally required to comply with it. And although we're coming at this from a global audience, for us, we can see this as best practices, as a benchmark that we can compare our standards to. So within the framework, there are specific guidelines for us, the adults, to follow. There are 7 areas of learning, which we'll look at a little bit later. So the 7 areas of learning, as you may already know if you're researching or applying it: communication and language, physical development, social emotional development, literacy, math, expressive arts and design, and understanding the world. So we'll look at those in a bit. More importantly, the EYFS, they identify specific characteristics. So what makes up effective learning? So when children are playing, when they're exploring, when they're actively learning, when they're creating and thinking critically, these are the aspects which underscore the optimal learning. So again, let's contrast that with sometimes what we may see in classrooms, which is also great. But for example, activities like copying, like tracing, waiting on the chairs for their turn, passively watching the teacher demonstrate something in circle time, all of these, all rote listening, all of these activities, although they're important in their own way for other reasons, for other learning standards, but they're not the ideal or the optimal or most effective learning. They're not the methods that align with EYFS's understanding of the most effective ways that children learn. So the focus is rather on encouraging children to be active, on engaging them in the process. And again, what do we mean by that? We're going to look at some of those examples in a moment. EYFS is similar to other frameworks from other parts of the world. If you would like to compare it to other countries, there's the early learning standards in the USA. There's also the early years learning framework in Australia. These frameworks, along with the EYFS, they all share a common goal. We're all here to provide the best quality early care and education to children. Now, while the EYFS framework itself is available online, you can go to the UK websites and download it as a set of guidelines. You need to also think about, in order to successfully implement the EYFS approach or the curriculum in your program, there are other tools that you need for successful implementation. You need accompanying curriculum resources. You need specific training for your teachers. You will benefit from creating templates that make it easier for yourself, for your team, in order to implement and plan. And the curriculum affects everything. And before the curriculum, the values that you set in the curriculum, which we looked at a moment ago, those come before even you making the decision to select the curriculum. And then once you decide on the values and you select the curriculum, now your selection of your furniture, your equipment, your hiring decisions, the policies that you write for your center, the kinds of toys and the resources that you invest in, the way you speak about your vision of the center to the parents, everything is affected from the curriculum, and then before the curriculum from those values that you set forth that come before the curriculum as well. And although the EYFS was designed for the UK, it is flexible enough to be adapted to diverse cultural contexts. It respects and acknowledges different family backgrounds, the languages, the cultural practices. It really is a universally adaptable framework. And when we talk about the importance of adaptation and contextualization, we're not just talking about language, country, even when you have different branches for your childcare program, even in the same city, you still have to think about adaptation. It's not just across countries. It's about that one child and that one community, and serving that one family. So let's dive in a little bit more into the framework itself. We talked about the four principles. Remember, the first one was that you believe that every child is unique. This recognizes that the individuality of the child, it emphasizes that children develop at their own pace and they have their own interests and their own learning styles. So if we apply this to an early years classroom, we could imagine, let's imagine that this little girl, her name is Mia, and the teacher observes that Mia is interested in animals. So then the teacher incorporates animal-themed books, animal-themed activities into Mia's learning. That shows that she's catering to her interests. She's catering to her individuality, and it's creating a unique learning journey. This is what we mean by unique learning journey for each child. And I know that it's impossible to do this for every single child, but just the fact that we're paying attention, just the fact that we are present and we are noticing these things about children, and we're trying as much as we can to incorporate these into our planning, that makes a world of a difference for you and for the children. A book that I really would like to recommend here is by Helen Hedges. It's a new publication. It was published in 2022. It's called Children's Interests, Inquiries, and Identities, and it will teach us how to incorporate children's interest in a practical way for busy teachers with different kind of creative resources into the curriculum, into your pedagogy, and helping you achieve those maximum learning outcomes for all children. The next one I really love is about the key principle about positive relationships. This principle is about children forming secure attachments with caregivers and educators, which are the essential foundation. So, for example, in an ideal world, consider the scenario where the teacher or the educator is spending time with each child. They're understanding their feelings, they're experiencing their experiences, and helping build that trusting relationship. And again, creating those daily moments with every single child seems impossible. But when you set it as a goal, when you remind yourself that that's your principle, before planning your activities, before doing all of that, remind yourself of that North Star, that value. It will make a huge impact on the environment, on the emotional environment of the classroom. So let's take a look at a video together. We will, I want you to notice how this teacher is listening, how sometimes she very lightly touches children appropriately when they're speaking, how they look at the children, how the children are looking and listening and noticing each other, just to practically see how this principle can be applied in the classroom.
Would you like to feed Sally this morning? Mark, what are these green things called?
Pepper.
Okay, great. I think conversational opportunities show up across the classroom all times of the day, from the moment children step over the threshold to the moment when I sing goodbye. Good for you, you remembered that word.
Mushrooms.
You don't like mushrooms either?
Yeah. I like mushrooms.
You do.
Mushrooms are not food.
Language is what's happening all the time in school. It's fun for a teacher to find ways to try to have that blossom between the kids. Do you notice anything different about the kinds of buttons that are out today on the table? These are blue, and what are the colors?
Blue and pink and white.
Meal times are one of the most popular times for conversation.
That one. No.
Blake is wearing orange today and Bobby's wearing red. Call them.
Belly's pretty pink.
It's a good time for discussion.
Aiden, can I open this?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm really
Hey, did you go?
Thank you.
You're welcome. They are just little snippets that occur, and it's my responsibility to try to enhance them and try to encourage them throughout the day.
Did you eat your barley? Yeah. It's long down my stomach.
I just sort of listen in and try to keep it percolating a little bit.
Tell them about your jet ski.
And it's not in snow.
I know. Ask them. I think maybe David or Dylan or Michelle might have an idea for you. Go check.
You know why it's called jet ski? Even the part of the thing is called ski. They can sky ski.
I'm going to read The Snowy Day. It's written and illustrated by Ezra Jack Keats. Clearly, when you read a story, you encourage language. I'll ask questions in the middle of the story to see if there's comprehension and try to get some conversation. Who can raise their hand and tell me something you wear to keep you cozy and warm on a snowy day? Laji.
Snow boots. Look, a monkey. Huh? Monkey's on bananas.
Children learn by doing.
2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bananas. Now it's your turn.
I want them to be excited about the curriculum so that they're actively engaged in it and they speak about it.
And you just shake it and there it goes. One more banana, then I'm all done. There 1, 2, 3.
So we really saw together how they're having continuous, meaningful conversations to help build that trusting relationship amongst each other. I really love how the teacher is listening carefully. They were modeling responses, they're prompting, they're facilitating that relationship to happen among the children themselves. The third key principle is about enabling environments. This is how we create those opportunities within the learning environments that inside the or outdoors, indoors, and to help them explore, help them learn, help them develop, making it safe, but also creating opportunities for creativity, and then balancing those two and knowing when to um, allow them to take risks, but also prioritizing safety. So a practical example in the classroom could be the way that you arrange the learning zones or the learning centers, whether you have the reading corners, the creativity area, the sensory play area, and then each zone is designed to stimulate different aspects of children's development, and also helps for children who learn differently find different things that they're interested in. And the final key principle is about the learning and development, which acknowledges that children learn in different ways and in different rates. So we have to think about all the different things that children could be doing, and then all the different things that educators could be doing. So what do I mean by that? So let's take a look together at this Venn diagram. On the circle on the left, we see what children do. For example, children are building, they're drawing, they're painting, they're thinking, they're exploring, comparing, they're collaborating with peers, they're predicting, they're drawing conclusions, they're telling stories, they're testing theories. And then all the way to the right, this is what educators are doing. They're extending and challenging children's thinking and learning. They're documenting, they're supporting children's self-regulation, they're providing what needs to provoke, they're noticing, they're naming the learning, they're determining the next steps for the learning. And then look at the beautiful place right in the center of that Venn diagram where the circles overlap. And this is where children and educators are co-constructing together. So for example, teachers observe, that's the green circles, right? The teachers observe, and the children are thinking aloud. The teachers are listening, and the children are writing and determining goals. The teachers are sharing ideas, and the children are asking questions. The teachers are planning and coordinating, and they maybe, remember we said documenting the learning in the outside circle, but then in the middle, in the overlap, the children are reflecting on that documentation. Teachers might clarify ideas, and then children might negotiate in their own way, right? And regardless of the age, you could describe these actions differently according to the developmental stage of the child. But even with infants and toddlers, all children are doing this in their own way, whether it's verbally, non-verbally, through cries, through noises, whatever it is, it's the same goal, but expressed differently according to their developmental stage. So let's take a look at the 7 areas of learning. We have the communication and language. So this area involves giving children opportunities to experience rich language environments, experiencing not only language, but language environments. We have the physical development, focusing on providing opportunities for children to be active, to be interactive, to develop their coordination skills, their control, their movement, and also more than actually them moving themselves, or in addition to that, children also need to understand why it's important to have physical activity. Why is it important that we make healthy choices? Then the personal, social, and emotional development. So this area involves helping children develop a positive sense of themselves. So simply, for example, a very small example would be when a child colors or paints something or prepares some kind of artwork, and then they show it to us as an adult. And instead of saying, that was a great or a beautiful design, we could turn it around and ask the child, so how do you feel about yourself doing this? And most children, after they get used to it, they'll stop and pause, and they'll say, I feel really proud about myself. And that's a small example of helping children really develop that positive sense of themselves, rather than waiting to build that off of reflection from somebody else. And it's a huge step that we're building, a huge foundation that we're building, that they will need to have a healthy sense of self as they grow into their adulthood. Then we have literacy. So literacy in the EYFS focuses on encouraging children to link the sounds to the letters, to begin to read and write. Children are given access to different kinds of materials to get them excited about it, not just forcing it part of your plan, part of your schedule, but propping things around the environment that will make it exciting for them to want to learn, to learn about the letters, make them motivated to want to do that as a strategy to help them reach a goal that they want, that you've set up intelligently in the environment. Then we have mathematics, which involves opportunities to develop and improve their skills in counting, understanding and using numbers, calculating simple addition and subtraction problems, understanding shapes, measures, things like that. Then we have expressive arts and design focus, which is helping children to explore, play, the wide range of media, and just sharing their thoughts and ideas through art, through music, through movement, through dance, through role play, through design, through technology. And then finally, understanding the world. It's helping them connecting between, making sense between of the physical world, their community, understanding where they are, part of this earth that we have together, and understanding that we are all different and the same, depending on how closely you look. In this last video that I'm going to show you, we're going to be looking at how teachers are practically implementing this idea of respecting differences of each other, really bringing this example of understanding the world into practice. How do you teach children that we are different, that we are the same? How do you teach children about respecting that? So let's end with a video that really brings this last area of development into practice, and then we'll talk more about the activity and the quiz that we're working on.
First, I'm going to start with a great big book, and it's this one. The pages are so giant, and it's called We Are All Alike, We Are All Different. It starts like this. We are all alike because we are all people.
Diversity is celebrating differences between ourselves. Difference in ability, difference in culture, languages. And we use that book as the jumping off point for discussion.
Who here is a girl?
Me. Not me.
And who here is a boy? So some of us are girls and some of us are boys.
Each page showed a way that the children were similar to each other. And then it went on to notice the differences. So we all started to talk about the differences in our color, our skin, our hair, our eyes. And we talk about that and we celebrate that.
What color is your hair?
Black. Brown. Some people's are
brown.
Hey, mine's are black.
Vivian, did you do any cut pictures?
Yes, I did.
Come on up. Different languages is one way that you can express diversity. You want to encourage the children use that language that they know. The children that are dual language learners, I asked them, how do you say the pictures that they brought in, not just in English, but in their second language? Any of those words, do you know in your Russian language? How do you say it?
Eyes is glaza.
Glaza?
Yeah.
Almost like saying glasses.
Hair is volosy.
Say that louder.
Volosy.
Volse?
And I don't know anymore.
That's amazing.
One of the things that I do to foster diversity is to trace the children's bodies. I'll take a photo and make a photocopy of it and put them all around the classroom. They look at it and they feel good about themselves to see themselves up there. And it's also a way to measure each other, who's shorter, who's taller, so they can compare and contrast. And it's also a good way for them to see this is our class. This is us. We belong here. I'm going to have you look in the mirror and see what you see. I want you to look very closely. Check out your eyes and see if they're brown or black or green.
One of the ways that I help children recognize their sameness and differences is to have them look in the mirror and draw what they see. What kind of eyebrows do you have? What color eyes do you have?
And what else you have? What else you see on your face? Your mouth. Can you draw your mouth?
We all have hair, we all have eyes, and we all have mouths. So the features are the same. So I'll tell them, my eyes are green, your eyes are brown, but we both have eyes. Your hair is short and my hair is longer. So I'll point out the differences, or I'll ask them to point out the differences.
Is Cheyenne's hair the same as your hair?
They both have the same hair.
Beautiful.
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing this time with me. So next, we'll share some information about the practice activity that you need to do, and you'll be able to take the quiz, complete the feedback survey, and then download the certificate.